Well, good morning. As you may hear, I'm doing this in English. My Russian is really bad. Spasiba and babushka is probably the only words in Russian I really know. So if you do have any questions and you can't speak English, it's fine. I will be here throughout the day. There are a lot of people that actually can translate for me. So bear with me. And normally what I do when I give these talks, I want to know who my audience is. So, I hate pointers. So, you need to raise your hands if you're an Android developer. Cool. Any iOS developers out there? Okay. Xamarin? No? One, two. Hey. Hopefully no managers. UX people. You're a manager. I won't tease you. Any people that do a lot of UX designers? One, two, way in the back. Yay. So you probably know this. Cool. So my talk will be for all of you, I hope. Normally I give talks focused on Android, but this kind of talks that I normally do can also be good for iOS developers and managers, testers, basically everybody that does something in mobile. So my name is Wiebe Elsinga. It's a really difficult name. You can call me just Mr. Moustache. That's probably much easier. No, I don't work for Google. I'm a Google developer expert for Android. Basically, I get to share my knowledge of Android and mobile, and Google is paying all for the flights, well, most of them. You still have to pay for the hotel, right? So, I actually do create Android and iOS applications, but my passion is really about design. And Google thinks that the stuff I've learned and the stuff I do are really interesting. So that's why that's why they chose me to become a Google developer expert for Android. And I get to play with a lot of new cool stuff that isn't available publicly yet. So I did something with the Mertillo design specs, helped a bit with the new test recording that probably Dennis will mention in his presentation. And I do a lot of talks at conferences and do workshops to help people understand. And basically what I am doing is thinking all the time. I do need to warn you, there are some bad examples of UX coming up, so don't be scared. There are actually really good examples, and if you look at them and you learn, then I'll probably achieve a whole lot today. So, let's start with a case. This monitor isn't working. You can also sit here if you like. So you probably know this app, right? It's Twitter. Is it popular in Russia? Yeah? So what happens when I scroll and I need to know what... Can somebody also turn on the monitor, by the way? Andre, can you turn on the monitor? Or somebody? So you're scrolling, you are curious what your friends are doing, and all of a sudden this pops up. This is really annoying. So this is blocking my experience as a user. I'm not waiting for a question that an app needs to be reviewed, especially this question, because I'm not gonna rate them really well because they annoy the hell out of me. And this is basically one of the key principles of user experience, a bad example of user experience. So now comes the really boring stuff. So this is the definition of UX. Thank you. So what are some key interesting words that you may think is important for UX? And you can shout in English or in Russian. I need your help. It's really interactive, it's supposed to be. So let's, easy, that's correct. Another one? Well, there's a hint already. It's person. What I mean is, we build apps, maybe you build mobile website, maybe you build websites, maybe you develop desktop applications. But the sole purpose of us making these cool things are for people, are for actually making people happy. Those are the people that we need to listen to. This is really important. And I know it's a marketing thing and we're at a conference that's technical, but don't ever forget we're doing it for the people, for making happy. And we use our mobile phones a lot. And these are some really nice marketing stuff, but actually this is how we use our mobile phones. We use it a lot. I think compared to 10 years ago, probably nobody uses mobile, but these days everybody is on mobile. And I think in Russia you have like a Facebook kind of equivalent, right? Yeah. You're really fond of that, but everybody's like socializing a lot. Well, talking about socializing, because we're doing a lot with our mobile phones, we get a little distracted. But actually, we're using our phone so much, even on the most important aspects. So if your phone is really crappy, you have a bad user experience, what does it tell you? And talking about, we even use our mobile phones with the most important stuff, and we still use it. I took this at a soccer game. So, getting back to the definition. So, we know it's about the person, but it's also about the ease and pleasure people get when they use your mobile app, or your website, or your desktop applications. And it sounds really easy, right? But it's not. We overthink stuff. For instance, this is a good example. This is what we think the path would be. Well, let me just do this. This is the path we normally think we should take. But actually the user experience is more like this. Right? So during this couple of, I think we'll have half an hour, I'm not going to tell you what to do. I'm going to show you some pointers that you actually may learn, stuff that you don't need to do. And it's not focused on Android, it's not focused on iOS, but I have some examples that focus on those platforms. So first of all, know who you are building your app for. Again, it's corny, it's probably a lot of marketing stuff, but if we left it up to the developers and we asked them, well, build something, we'll probably end up doing like this. You have so many buttons and it does actually do something. But it's not really convenient for most of the people. And if we ask, well, marketing, can you create something? We'll probably end up something like this. Has a lot of stuff you can do, but it's completely non-functional for the end user. No, actually what you want to target is the most dumb person out there. Actually, this is not a picture of my son, but it's a valid point. Children are not overthinking their use, they're just playing with stuff. And most of the users actually just play with their stuff. If you, on your Facebook or on your Twitter, you know how stuff works. But my babushka, she's probably not that technical, but she still knows how to do Facebook. Yes, she does do Facebook. So let me show you some examples of apps, mobile apps, that didn't listen or didn't think of who their target audience is. So the first one is an application which you can search sex offenders, because it's really handy that you know there are no sex offenders nearby. But what does iOS do? They ask, well, you want to search something in between, nearby? We'll ask for permission. So it's probably not the best message you send, turn on your, share your locations with sex offenders. Right? It's the whole purpose. And what is this device called? Come on, shout. What? Speak up louder. A watch, yeah. What kind of watch? An Apple Watch. So what's bad about this design, about this user experience? Small icons, yeah. Too much icons. Oh, that's a bad user experience. Yeah, that's a really expensive, really well thought out watch. Okay. Well, okay. We're focusing on that. You have the cool, it's called Chrome, so you can navigate. But most of who's actually wearing a watch? Yeah, you are also wearing a watch. Can you raise it? Most of the people actually wear their watch on the left-hand side. But there are people that wear them on the right-hand side. So what do you get if you have the crown? It will block it. So when the Apple Watch was introduced, they quickly came up with a cool bug fix. So basically, if you install your Apple Watch for the first time, it will ask you, are you going to wear it on the left-hand side or on the right-hand side? But still going to block the experience. Another one, this is a traveling application. So you can search for cool hotels nearby and you can order it. Again, what's bad with this? Is it bad? Yes. I'm not talking about style, I'm not talking about sexiness, no. What's bad about it? Exactly. If I want to read all the stuff in my information, I'll probably have to do like this. There is just too much information. And let me give you a tip, a good way of testing if your application is not clouded, just do this. I will do the animation again. If you create an app, just do this. It is really silly, I know, but there's a lot of applications, especially what we saw the last 5-6 years, that they have a web application, they want to do something with mobile, so they port their website onto a mobile device. That is so wrong, because you get all the information on the website, which is built for bigger screens, onto a tiny, tiny screen. Don't do that. So, some tips. Do some research who your app user is going to be. Again, it is marketing, but if you target your audience really well, you know what they want. You know what to build. You know how easy it would be. Second, you might want to read the reviews. And most of the reviews are crap. Don't get me wrong, they're really dumb people, not as smart as we are. But there are some valid points, because they are using the app, not like us. Again, I'm the odd one out, so Dennis, hi. Do you have your phone set into English or Russian? In Russian.
If you synchronize your Russian social networks, it's socialized transliterated to English. It's not such a good way.
Oh, I didn't know that.
This is only one issue. My mind will do it.
Okay. You hate really English. Now, most of the European people I know that aren't native English, and they are designing for Android or iOS, does have their mobile set to English. We're the odd one out. But if you forget something, or if you are so focused on a language, and somebody in the app says, well, I can see English, but where is my Russian? You will know that you need to focus on that. So, we had the audience, the who, so now the what. We think we know everything, and probably we do. But the odd thing is, we are developers, we're designers, we're not and we're also users of mobile phones, but we're forgetting the big message. We overthink. And a good example is, I love marketing stuff. So what do you think, I took a picture, what do you think I'm going to buy, seeing at this box? A t-shirt? Headphones, right? No. Actually, it's a fishbowl. And why are you emphasizing on a female with headset, and what is the relationship between fish? I still don't know. And it's even worse because you have like the thinking balloon. Is the fish thinking of a beautiful blonde girl? What's the message you're sending? Another one. So most of you probably do the laundry. So what if I want to do the laundry and set it to normal? Which normal? Normal minus, normal on the left-hand side, normal plus. People that designed this didn't think it through that well. A better example. So I was in Istanbul at the Hagia Sophia. It's a really beautiful mosque, and I was enjoying the scenery and taking a lot of pictures. And all of a sudden, a group of, I think it's Taiwanese, came, took a lot of pictures, and then left again. So what's interesting in this picture is, for instance, if you make a mobile application and you're making a phone sharing or a photo sharing software, what would be interesting in this crowd? Do you know what this is called? Yeah. It's not really good that you know, by the way. I really hate those. No, but from a user point of view, or from a user experience point of view, they are using the front camera a lot. And that is not what we took in consideration when we built our phone app, our photo app. So we might think, oh, we know everything, we are building a camera app, but we're forgetting that there's another camera on there. Well, let me show you some actual mobile examples. So I have a son that's 2 years old, and he's going to daycare, and they have a mobile application. And for instance, if I'm late to pick him up, I can contact them, and it shows them in the app. It shows me this page. How will I contact them? So. What's normal during a development cycle is you define features, and you probably know at the next sprint or in the next week I will have to have a contact page or something where I can press a call button and it calls the daycare. But for now I don't have any time. If you don't have any time, if you're not putting in stuff that actually works, leave it out. It's confusing the hell out of me, all of the user, and it doesn't make sense at all. A good example is, sometimes you have to make it as simple as possible. And a good way to show you are child's games. You can do a lot with those games, but they seem simple, they feel simple. And that's also really the essence of UX, it's supposed to be simple. And iOS, this is another bad example. We overthink, we're not thinking like humans. We are so cool, we're like super gods, we build awesome apps, but we overthink stuff. For instance, this is a barcode scanning app. So what you need to do, you look at the barcode, you take a picture, and it analyzes the barcode, and it will give you a number. Do you have barcoding machines in Russia? How do they work? Bleep. Yeah, you just point and it bleeps, right? But now all of a sudden I have to take a picture. That makes no sense at all. So we think more in the technical way. How can I resolve analyzing the barcode? If I take a picture, I can analyze it more. I can send it to the backend, and so it's much more powerful. But actually, if we create a barcoding scanning app, do it like a barcode. Just point and bleep it. So to sum up again, the point, a good way is if you use prototypes. So stop writing code first, just grab a piece of paper and scribble something down and go into a discussion with your product manager, with your end user, even with your colleagues. Try to understand if the stuff you think the app should be doing visually or for a UX point of view is the valid one. And maybe explore some alternatives. For instance, you have the draw a layout, or no, even better, you have the bottom bar for iOS and for Android now. Is this sending out the right message? Can I do something else? Can I leave it? Because it's taking away some of the space on the screen. Again, think like humans. The barcoding scan is a good example. We overthink stuff. Things shouldn't be hard to figure out. It should be easy. So try to look at yourself and think, if I wasn't like the expert, how would my babushka do it, or ask her for her opinion. And less is more. The less I put into the app or the screen from a UX point of view, the easier it gets. So don't clutter the user with like 2,000 features. Make it simple, and if the user asks for more, you can add it, and sometimes you need to leave out stuff. That's why I think Facebook is really crap. You can do so much, but all you're doing is reading and liking. And I still want the dislike thingy. They now have the heart shape and the oh my god thing, but it's not. The dislike is in there. So, so we know we're building the app for, we know what we're building. Now we have to ask ourselves, why? Why do we build these kinds of apps? So this was a photo taken in a hotel room. Can somebody explain me what these buttons do? Up and down stuff. And what's the up button then? Is it the top one, the button? If I press it and it turns red, is it off? Is it on? So let me in on secret, it opens and closes the curtains. So, it was cool though, but first of all, why is it vertical? If it opens and closes the curtains, put it horizontal. And at least say something, red is off and red is and blue is green. So the light is only that I pressed it. So sometimes stuff isn't really clear. And what's cool, and I just needed a graph because I hate graphs, so that's why I put it in there. Actually, you're trying to solve stuff. That's the whole purpose of the app. So if we look at how popular apps are and what's their success rate, basically you're saying, if I solve a problem, the app will be used. It's that easy. I'm not using an app that's crap that doesn't solve my problem, it only makes stuff worse. No, I'm actually trying to help. It wants to help me as a user. A good example is, so this is a typewriter. Everybody, I love these things, you can press and it will do stuff. We have modern typewriters, and you get so much more. Word, art, synchronizing columns. Oh my god, it's so much more than just simple typing. And it's even gotten worse, because what you see is, if you're a writer and you write blogs or you write articles, you get distracted all the time, especially with these kinds of desktop application. There's so much more, and you have your Twitter and your Facebook that you want. So how do they solve these kinds of problems? They actually make machines that turn off the Wi-Fi, turn off any sound, so you can just type. This is, by the way, this is an actual device. It's much more than an iPad. Just to solve the problem that I don't get distracted on my MacBook or on my mobile phone, so I stop writing code or stop writing a blog. That doesn't make sense at all. Didn't they heard of like this button? Airplane mode. If I turn it on, I won't have any messages from Facebook. I won't get distracted. So sometimes an easy solution is really valid. And another good example is Instagram. Are you using Instagram? Yeah. So you know what's cool about it? Well, Instagram did solve a problem that I had. I can take pictures, but I'm a crappy photographer. So what did Instagram do? They solved my problem by adding a filter. And everything looks good when you add sepia. All of a sudden, I'm really like a good photographer. And I can easily share it as well. It's a silly thing, but it actually helps my experience. I take a lot of pictures these days, and I'll use a lot of sepia, so they solve a problem, turning my crappy phones into something beautiful. Well, let me give you some examples from the real world. So this is on the left-hand side, you see an app in Poland. It's a news website, so you can skim through the different apps. And I was at a conference, and somebody showed me, I do app reviews, so basically they're gonna show me their app they build or build for the customer, and I'm gonna try to figure out how they can improve it. And this app has a 4-star rating, but I think it's really crappy. It doesn't look really sexy, because we want to have the sexiness in our apps, we want to have our sexiness in our website or in our desktop. So he challenged me, well, redesign it. So in 1 hour, I redesigned it. So what are some principles I previously discussed I put into the redesign? I make it less cluttery, but still have a lot of room for articles, so more white spaces. I still do branding, although I don't like the logo. You don't have like the ugly buttons anymore. There's so many patterns in there, and I can rant on for hours the difference. But in the end, it feels much better on the right-hand side than on the left-hand side. I'm giving a talk after Dennis won about material design, and there's also some examples in there if you like to see how cool a change of UX can be with material design. Another one, this is a conference app. It's a really simple one. By the way, I was rather disappointed that this conference didn't have a mobile app. So next time I will, if I will return here, I will probably build one. So what's interesting with this, you probably know this, right? Do you know what's called? iOS even has it. Yeah, so it's sort of a slide-in menu stuff. So what's interesting with this is, when it first was introduced, there was a lot of complaints from UX, but also from developers saying, well, as a user, you probably don't know there's a hidden menu in there. I have to press a button and all of a sudden there's like additional features. So from a UX point of view, it was really crappy. Now, 2 years later, everybody knew if you press the hamburger button, or if you press the hamburger button, there's a hidden menu. So all of a sudden, users do know patterns, and what wasn't valid 2 years ago is valid now. And that's also really a big struggle when you're creating a good user experience. So if you create an app, a website, and you don't do anything for the upcoming 2-3 years, or here in Russia in 1 year, because you're doing so much so fast, things will catch up on you. So, and another trend we see, so Android is doing a lot of stuff now that iOS already did, and vice versa. A good example, if you open your Photos apps on your Android device, you have the bottom bar tabs. This is a pattern designed by iOS. It was well thought out, it's really cool. It does help for iOS. And Android thought, well, it's a good design pattern, why don't we use it? We don't need the sliding in menu for just 2 or 3 items. But for an Android point of view, especially if you have phones like this is really huge because I have bad eyes, or I'm old, or both, it's not working. You know why? What's the biggest problem for tab bars on Android? Short fingers. So what do you... Yeah, that's one. You get a biscuit later. I have some... Oh, I will explain later. No, what is actually so we did a study. We can measure how users are using the app and looking into their eyesight. So what are they looking at on the screen and what did they see? This is the path they took. Because we as Android people always look at the top, there's a menu, and then I will go down where I am. So this is a lot of stuff for your eyes to process. So this is really bad. It takes away the ease of your app. So why does it work for iOS? Because iOS it was already there. There's no hidden top thingy out there. So for iOS it does work. But for Android it doesn't. So some tips. Please, if you create, focus on the goal. So what are you trying to solve? And solve it. Don't get cluttered by all some nifty shit you can do. Just focus on the goal at hand. Also adopt. If you're for Android, use material design. The cool thing for Apple is they have so great the documentation is awesome. So all you have to do is follow the documentation and you're good to go. That's still crappy for Android developers. So, we made it simple, we know who we're building the app for, we know what we're building, we're not going to build something really stupid, but something really handy. So now, let's focus on enhancing this stuff, make it sexy, because this is important. And does the stuff we add to our app really helps? So a good example is, you probably have seen this when you fly, right? Do you have these in Russia as well? Or it's just the flight attendant saying, well, there's the exit. So this is a good example of showing so much information and enhancing the experience of actually, they use colors to emphasize safety stuff. They're using red to warn you in case of an emergency. So adding colors, in this case for Ryanair, does help. Do you know, by the way, if there's an emergency, you need to take off your high heels? I didn't know that. And there's also, was it in there? Yes, you need to take out your teeth. Why? What's going on if I don't do that? No. Well, another way of trying to solve or enhance your app by changing stuff. So I was in the States during Google I/O, and they're in a hotel, really nice hotel, and there was a door that says fire control room, and it was really confusing for people because what does a fire control room mean? It's a valid name, but so in case of an emergency, you have to go there. There's either people there or there's fire extinguishers. But it's not really like powerful, like fire control room. It's just a room, right? So they enhanced it. So can you guess a good enhancement for a new name that if you look at it, you would say, oh, I need to go there. It's either really safe or really awesome to go there. It's now a fire control center. So how cool is that? It's not a room anymore, it's like a complete center. And it's a silly example, but sometimes like the smallest enhancement, the smallest change can actually do a lot of change. Using different colors to emphasize stuff, less features to get things cluttered. Those are the things we need to take in consideration. Also, especially with this last year, motion is rather important. So motion can add to the experience. People are dumb. If something is moving, it tells you something. So motion is important. But please, don't overdo it. Let me show you some examples of really bad ways of using motions. So you know this app? It actually works in Russia as well. So what's bad about this app? Or this opening screen? A lot of it, yeah. So that it's a fancy animation, don't get me wrong. And I've talked to the designer who created this, and he says, well, we have to do something because it's loading data in the background, so we don't want to show the user, please wait. We want to do something fancy, so they introduced like this cool animation. Sure. I know the hassle if you have data that is supposed to be loaded and you have to do something. But trust me, I do a lot of traveling. And if you're at home at the airport at 3 o'clock at night and you have like a huge jet lag, you're not waiting for a stupid animation to load. Trust me. Just say loading, please wait, that's fine. And if you see this a lot because it's loading a long time, because most airports are really bad with the Wi-Fi, or not all countries have 3G or 4G, it's getting really annoying. So this animation, this motion doesn't really add to the user experience. So what does? So you have the Dropbox, you have to sign in, it's really a hassle, you might want to have some additional information, but you don't have to wait. If I just press sign in, that's fine. But if I'm seriously and I want to read stuff before I sign in to know what I'm signing into, it's like a cool animation. It doesn't block my experience. I can still do stuff and I don't need to wait. But it's rather nifty. And these kind of small things are really cool. Another way of bad motion in an app. You know probably this app, right? Yes. What do you think of this app? What do you think of LinkedIn? I'm not going to ask you because you're a manager. This is like your sole income. Do you use it a lot? Good. So there is in the newest version for iOS and Android like a cool animation, so you can swipe the cards to see. And there are 5 cards. And I'm swiping, and I'm swiping, and I'm swiping. Wait. I can see all my cards again. So I'm swiping 5 and I see the first of the stack. Now translate that in a stack of paper. If I swipe the first couple and then I'm at the end and I don't have any papers yet. I don't have any pieces of paper. So this is the way we normally think as humans how it should be. But no, the designers and the developers of LinkedIn says, no, it's an infinitive swipe because it's so much easier. That doesn't work. So again, motion doesn't really add to the experience. So let me show you some example, show you an example of a motion that does do something cool. So this is an app and you can look at recipes, like cocktails. Oh. Wait, isn't the animation there? Shit. Ah. Okay. Never do your slides at 2 o'clock in the morning. No, I try to visualize. So when you click on a recipe, you see a glass or a couple of glasses because you can do multiple recipes. And when you swipe through the other one, the water in the glass is shaking. So again, it's really cool because actually when you take your glass and you swipe it to the left or to the right, the water is going like this. So this is a cool animation, right? But it doesn't block anything. Those are some really cool, fun little tweaks you can do to actually make the user really happy. But again, some pointers, don't overdo animation, don't go nuts. It's not like iOS did it before and they ditched a whole lot of animation, and Android is now doing a lot of information, but don't overdo it. Don't make like a blinking carnival app which does a lot of animation. And if you do use animation, don't make it too fast or too slow. You don't want to get the users, if they have an animation, to wait a really long time. Or too fast that the user is really confused. What just happened? I clicked something and oh my god, stuff happened and blah. So, we're almost at the end and I hope you have a lot of questions. I'll be here throughout the day if you have any questions, so please bug me. So some final thoughts and what we discussed. So, and I know it's the beginning of a really long day and so many cool stuff ahead. So forget everything I just say, just remember my 4 quotes. Designers are nice people. Talk to them. They know shit. Really, they know stuff. Some not all good, but teach them. It's our obligation as cool developers that we are to share why you don't need like an over-exhausted animation. Or you don't need too much information on the screen. Please read the documentation. For both platforms, actually for all platforms, there are really good documentation out there that are some, they did some really well thought out research, user research, motion research. Apple did it a long time. Apple is really a master, is writing documentation and well thought out. Google is still evolving, we're doing our best. But there are a lot of stuff already out there that you don't need to think about and just copy it. And if you do make an app, you should solve a problem. Don't make a new one. It should be easy. But if you know what you make and you solve a problem, you will get a good star rating and you will be really popular and you will make money, blah, blah, blah. It's not important. But you're really happy in what you're doing. If you solve a problem, it feels really good. So know what you make, for whom you make, and why. Again, it's really corny, but it's the truth. I can't make it any sexier than that. And that's it. Is it correct, by the way? Yeah. Oh, thank God. So, are there any questions? And the lady over there. Spasiba. Yes. And for any good questions, so I brought from the Netherlands some really sweet biscuits to give away. If you're diabetic, you don't get it because it's made of honey syrup, so it's really sugary. But for the people that does have questions, I will share it gladly. Who wants to see her run? Yeah.
Thank you for so fun and interesting report. So a question. What should I do when my project or service is about everything? The functionality is very rich and 90% of my customers loves 5% of functionality, but each customer love his own 5%.
Good question.
Should I release a dozen applications?
And you're targeting a mobile application? Or is it like a complete business solution that you are having services and mobile is just one of them that's...
iOS application for a very rich service.
Okay. You can do a couple of things. You can either make different apps for different kind of users. So if you have like 20 features, not everybody's going to use those 20 features. Some people, some power users are going to do like more the admin things. Other people are doing more the social or stuff. So try to separate these and just clutter them in or cluster them in some user stories that might be handy for them and separate them in different apps. That's one possibility.
Thank you.
Yeah. Afterwards you have a biscuit. Yeah. Oh, he's first. Oh. So how many IT guys does it take to actually have a working mic?
One. Awesome. Wiebe, thank you for your keynote. I have one practical question. How can we distinct the overdone animation from the animation that is done well?
Who defines animation? Okay, so the question is how can we distinguish animation that is overdone by the animation that is...
which is proper.
Which is proper. Who defines animation which is proper? I think some animations are really cool. You might think it's really crap. Right? So they're supposed to aid you with helping you get through the app. So if you do some research, if you ask some users, well, if you click, is it really handy? You see some swiping or some ripple effect coming up. If you do think those are valid, just use those. It's really tough, but it is again with user experience. Just ask the user. I really like the ripple effect. Some other people may not like it.
Okay, thank you.
It's never a good answer if I. Well, yeah.
Oh, does it work?
Yeah.
Раз, два, три.
I have a quite general question.
Yeah.
Let's imagine that design is created for a system of the website and for infrastructure of the website, and we have a task for creating similar style for mobile applications for both platforms, Android and iOS.
Yeah.
And the design team is quite good for website, but it's quite starter with mobile applications.
Yeah.
So the question is, can you recommend any approaches for creating quite good mobile applications for both platforms? So, for example, should we recommend to dive them very deeply into the documentation for each platform, or are there any quite common approaches for creating both applications and after that start customizing them? So
Yeah.
just a question about approaches.
So your question is, you're targeting multiple platforms. You have a similar UI, or you want to achieve similar UI. And your question is, if I want to, and they're really good at web design, but not really good at mobile design. So should I read platform-specific stuff, or are there any general stuff? Correct? You must read platform-specific stuff, and the reason is people know their platform. That's why you have really a difference between iOS developers and Android developers, and they really like their own stuff. You rarely see people that really like Apple or do have an iOS and an Android app. So if you adapt the platform UI and UX to a specific platform, you get so much more in return. It's a trade-off because you are stepping away from a general look and feel for all the platforms, but you can still achieve a lot with using of colors, font sizes, typography, branding. You can still do that, so still have the feeling of, say, hey, cool, I know this app because it looks like the one I'm using, but still have the platform-specific parts. A good example is McDonald's. McDonald's has an iOS app and an Android app. They use their platform-specific stuff, so there are some navigation stuff that's different, but you still have the McDonald's feeling of the red and the yellow, and it looks similar. Does this answer your question? Good question. A biscuit afterwards.
Hello. Thank you so much. I have one question. When you were asking which platforms we are mastering, you forget to ask about Windows Phone. Why? Don't you think Microsoft, with their design language and with their metro style, did something useful?
So your question is, why did I forget Windows Mobile, and why did I
Universal Windows platform with their new design in Windows 10?
Because I think I'm not saying all the stuff from Microsoft is bad. Their mobile platform is getting really mature, but I think they're a couple of years behind on Google and on Android. And if you look in Europe, the Windows Mobile isn't really popular, so we already ditched the BlackBerry. Yay! There are a lot of people that are using Windows Mobile, but I think they have to grow up a little bit more. They're really good at server-side stuff and API stuff and hardware stuff, but their mobile is a little bit still flaky, but they're growing up, so that's why I forgot. Are you insulted?
But if we're talking about design, don't you think that their idea of that typographics matters, and their transitions and their animations that they have in their platform, don't you think it's a good thing? Because when you have not a lot of colors and tiny stuff, but you have a text which is really formatted and designed in a good matter. Don't you think it's a good point for design to focus on text because there's a lot of text?
Yes and no. That's always it. So there are some patterns for Microsoft that I think is valid for the other platforms as well. Which I don't like are the use of colors and font sizes, typography for mobile. I think there are some lacking in UX patterns, but that's my opinion. And the cool thing about UX, there's so many opinions. I'm not saying it's bad, but I think they still need to be more mature. So, last question.
Yeah, let's have a last question.
Just a general question. What is your vision about the evolution of design, and can you predict any features or approaches that will be relevant in nearest future? Or we as developers and the designers don't have any other way except just follow to Apple or to Google in a kind of followers way?
Okay, so you're asking me what can I predict the future of UX or UI? Well, I would say yes, but that would make a lot of money. Now, I think the next step in UX will be less interfacing. And let me give you an example. All three platforms, Windows, Apple, and Google, are really investigating into VR and non-touch interfacing, so gestures and micro motions. And I think this will be the future. So we'll be less stuck to a screen and more in the virtual world or in your space. And that will be completely different if you look in UX UI, because you're not doing this anymore or this anymore, but you can do this. So I think this will be the one we need to focus on. And depending on if you're a game developer, it's much easier. But if you have like a banking app, you're probably not going to do this. But a good example is if you want to pay, can I mention this? Yeah, I can mention this. They're already testing apps that does have like a wallet function. So if I pay, I just do this. Or if I want to give you money, I will just do this. So these are some future stuff we will see. Does this answer your question? Okay.
So